Good evening, everyone. You're listening to Red Pill 78. I am the corruption detector, and this is your Red Pill News. We've got lots of news today, so we're going to get right into it. First of all, President Trump has fired longtime National Security Advisor John Bolton, and John Bolton is hitting back, claiming that he wasn't even fired. Also, yesterday, several suspicious vans were found in the Baltimore area. They contained thousands of gallons of gasoline. Very, very likely we averted an attack. Also, the FBI was given hard evidence showing that there was a Clinton-Libya scheme going on for $66 billion. And what did they do? They decided to investigate the Trump-Russia hoax instead. And finally, the Justice Department is seeking McCabe's text messages in the Spygate probe. I think this bodes well for possible indictments coming up for McCabe. We all know that the FISA IG report is coming out very soon, and I do believe that this has something to do with it. So everybody sit back, relax, grab that popcorn, and we'll be right back after a quick word from my sponsor. Nothing invokes full-scale panic like Wall Street panicking. But quietly, secretly, as you watch this, within full view of the markets, this is exactly what U.S. corporate insiders are doing. They'll call it financial prepping, being cautious, protecting their assets, and all sorts of other fancy explanations. But make no mistake, this is controlled panic. CNN reported $600 million of stock has been sold each day in August. This only happened previously before the 2008 crash. Insider selling has topped $10 billion for 5 months straight. Meanwhile, gold is rocketing, and demand is at a 3-year high according to the World Gold Council. The rise in prices of gold and silver show no signs of slowing down anytime soon, and investors seeking shelter for the stocks they cashed in on are piling into precious metals, which have risen 32% since August of last year. Precious metals, gold and silver, as an IRA or 401k rollover, will keep you safe, and they'll help you ride out this latest storm as they have always done. But you need to act fast. Call Noble Gold right now at 877-646-5347 and ask them to help you move your money to safety. Or you can hit the link below and someone will contact you and you'll get the free gold and silver investment guide that has been downloaded over 50,000 times. Once again, call 877-646-5347 or hit the link below to get the free guide. All right, first up, from the Daily Caller, Trump fires National Security Advisor John Bolton. President Donald Trump announced Tuesday that National Security Advisor John Bolton is resigning from the administration. The president asserted on Twitter that he asked Bolton for his resignation because he disagreed strongly with many of his suggestions, as did others in the administration. Trump claimed Bolton tendered his resignation Tuesday morning. However, Bolton countered in a tweet, "I offered to resign last night, and President Trump said, let's talk about it tomorrow." So here's the tweets from President Trump. He said, "I informed John Bolton last night that his services are no longer needed at the White House. I disagreed strongly with many of his suggestions, as did others in the administration. I informed John Bolton last night that his services are no longer needed at the White House. I disagreed strongly with many of his suggestions, as did others in the administration, and therefore I asked John for his resignation, which was given to me this morning. I thank John very much for his service. I will be naming a new national security advisor next week." And then Bolton thumps back on Twitter, "I offered to resign last night, and President Trump said, let's talk about it tomorrow." Now, Bolton is scheduled to appear at a White House briefing Tuesday afternoon alongside Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin. Trump and Bolton have reportedly clashed over their respective approaches to foreign policy, particularly on troop withdrawals in Syria and Afghanistan. Now, John Bolton is a classic neocon. He came from the Bush II administration. He had a lot to do in Iraq and in Afghanistan previously. And John Bolton is the kind of guy who's a war hawk. All he wants to do is, subvert other countries through the dominance of the United States. But he does it not for the right reasons. He doesn't want to go into a country and liberate them. He wants to go into a country, take them over, and grab their national resources so that they can be used by the United States and other countries and businesses that have ties to Bolton and his cronies. So neocons in the White House have been a big source of complaint for many people who are fans of President Trump. I've asserted for a long time, I think that President Trump hired John Bolton and he's kept other neocons around him because they were of the swamp. He needed people from the swamp in his administration in order to get certain things through. He had to make deals, he had to hire these people, and then the other swamp creatures would think, you know what, President Trump is being controlled by people that we have on our side, so we don't need to worry. But this latest move from President Trump, getting rid of John Bolton, I think is a very, very good sign for Trump's administration. And I think once we get a second term, 4 more years for Trump in the White House, we are going to see a vastly different White House and administration from President Trump. This is going to be the full-scale draining of the swamp. Okay, now next, in relation to Bolton, this was sent over by FTW Champs. Thanks, buddy. Says, is Bolton a marker? Stage set? It's time to go. Remember, post 993, right here, it says, follow Bolton, clean, stage, learn how to archive offline. The streets will not be safe for them. Perhaps with Bolton leaving, this is a marker for us to pay attention to, and something is coming up very soon. All right, next we have a tweet from the NSA that my good friend Cyber Raider Whitehat sent over to me. He says, we all sense that we are on the cusp of unimaginable technological changes. NSA's OGC Glenn Gerstle provides insight on what that change means for our national security infrastructure. And they are retweeting here a tweet from the New York Times. It says, imagine the leverage the first country to build a quantum computer would have. Such a decryption ability could render the military capabilities of the loser almost irrelevant and its economy overturned, writes Glenn Gerstle, General Counsel of the NSA. Now, Cyber brought up a very, very good point. When stuff comes out in the news, it's already old news. This means that we already have a quantum computer. We've had quantum computers. They've been developed here in the United States, and we've had them for several years. Not saying they're perfect, but if the NSA is talking about quantum computers, I think that tends to mean that they actually have working quantum computers. And perhaps this is a shot across the bow to the deep state, seeing as it's coming from the NSA. All right, so I mentioned that there was one van filled with gasoline that was found in Baltimore, and a second van filled with gasoline was found in Baltimore. Now, this is ahead of a GOP retreat that was scheduled. The Baltimore County Fire Department has reported that they are on the scene of a second suspicious van carrying 660 gallons of gasoline, only hours after one holding 1,000 gallons was found in a parking structure 0.8 miles from where the House GOP is scheduled to host their retreat on Thursday. Very, very, very interesting. The fire department tweeted that no explosives or hazards were found and that appears to be related to a theft. And this is the tweet from them. It says that hazmat units on location for a report of a suspicious van carrying 660 gallons of fuel. No explosives or hazards found. Appears to be related to a theft. MDE on location. Fire department units are clearing the location. Now, the department is clearing the area and has not stated whether or not there is any connection to the van found earlier in the day, but I would hazard a guess and say that yes, they probably are related. President Trump will be attending the 2019 House Republican Conference member retreat in the city later this week, a 6-minute drive from where the first van was located. And here we can see in this tweet from Hedge Energy, van packed with 1,000 gallons of gas found ahead of Trump's visit to Baltimore. Right here is where Trump is visiting. This is the evacuation zone where the gasoline was found. Police have confirmed that there was no explosive inside that van either. And this is a tweet from Jane Miller showing the area where they're evacuating people. Sources say the suspicious material inside the vehicle in a parking garage in downtown Baltimore are containers of gasoline. A search by a police robot turned up a device used for stealing diesel fuel. All right, so looks like it is not necessarily an attack that was planned on the Republicans, but highly suspicious that these people are coming to Baltimore after President Trump has been giving so much attention to it, and they just happen to have a couple of vans filled with all of this gas just sitting nearby. Now, police were originally called to the parking garage at 100 East Pratt Street, where the T. Rowe Price office is, around 11 a.m. on Monday morning about the first van. After several hours of investigating a suspicious vehicle, no explosive was detected, Baltimore Mayor Bernard C. Jack Young tweeted. We are currently in the process of conducting precautionary sweeps in an effort to ensure public safety. These sweeps are expected to take several hours. Mayor Young asked that people remain outside the evacuated area area and find alternate transportation to get home. He said that he will send out an update when people are able to pick up their vehicles. Now, here are those tweets from the mayor, and then here is that evacuation zone right there. Now, no motive or explanation for the vehicle has been announced at this time. The city police are being assisted by the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives. Here are some more photos from that evacuation zone. Here is a slightly higher up aerial view, and we will update the story as more information becomes available. And now, here's the thing. Just because there was a device used to steal diesel fuel doesn't mean that it wasn't planted there to make it look like it was some type of a theft. It is pretty suspicious that these vans filled with hundreds of thousands of gallons of gasoline are right next to where this Republican retreat is going to take place. This reminds me of the Republican retreat that happened, I believe, was it 2017, 2018, when they were on the Amtrak train and it mysteriously derailed and almost killed many Republican Congress members. So obviously this is something that we're going to want to keep an eye on, and I will be reporting as we get more information. All right, guys, next I have a very interesting tweet thread from my good friend and fellow researcher, Furor Rises. He says, "You've heard of silent weapons for quiet wars, but nobody knows the secret laws from secret courts." The White House Office of Legal Counsel is an office in the United States Department of Justice that assists the Attorney General's position as legal advisor to the President and all executive branches. Steve Engel from New York. Harvard, Cambridge, Yale, Kirkland & Ellis, Deschert, LLP, White House OLC. It's worth noting Kirkland & Ellis also employed William Barr, but their stints did not overlap. Curtis Gannon, California. Harvard, University of London, University of Chicago, clerked for Scalia in 2004. He authored the Trump immigration and travel bans, as well as advised the White House not to comply with congressional document requests that don't come from a full committee. The Office of Legal Counsel assists the Attorney General in presidential and executive branch agency matters from within the Department of Justice. I admit, until now, I thought the White House Counsel and OLC were the same thing and independent of the DOJ. This recent Politico article, I know, right, mentioned some eyebrow-raising things about the OLC that I was not aware of, like a whole category of law unknown to the public and unchallengeable in court. One scholar says these opinions can rival SCOTUS. Here's a quote from the article. "Very little is known about these opinions, which carry the force of law, resolve disputes between agencies, direct the conduct of federal officials, and can even affect civil rights and liberties." For example, back in 1991, the government only published 13 opinions out of an estimated 625 that the Office of Legal Counsel gave to other agencies. The Attorney General then was William Barr. The President was George H.W. Bush. The OLC has accumulated a body of legal opinions that have the same effect as law, but whose very existence is concealed from the public. It's impossible to estimate the size of this hidden body of rules. Here's a quote again. "There's something disturbingly backwards and even undemocratic about a system that allows the government to conceal and withhold opinions that have the force of law unless and until someone requests them." It goes on to say that in 2015, the ACLU unexpectedly discovered 12 rulings the OLC had not acknowledged. The Brennan Center for Justice at NYU published a study on secret law suggesting that there may be many more. Some selections from the Brennan Center report are here. Maybe the new Director of National Intelligence will uphold their end of the 2015 congressional mandate to make significant FISA opinions public, but redacted, of course. The effects of this secret court system has been to allow the NSA to build up 34 years of judicial precedent in favor of its expansive powers, with a large body of purported constitutional findings validating its own power. This article explains the existence of secret law in all three branches of government. The executive branch can write secret law for itself and carry it out without giving any hint that a secret law has even been created. The executive branch is legally obligated to share its secret law with Congress only in a few situations, short-circuiting the Constitution's shared power structure and checks and balances lawmaking process, the cornerstone of our republic. Secret laws in the Fisc Court. The government has steadfastly resisted the argument that the First Amendment right of access attaches to the Fisc's opinions. From the Wiki. Acting like a parallel U.S. Supreme Court, the Fisc Court greatly broadened the special needs exception to do so, this in regards to the NSA PRISM data collection program, a parallel secret Supreme Court expanding the scopes of laws that no one even knows about. The Office of Legal Counsel has produced a large array of opinions, from shaping immigration law and policy, authorizing covert operations, state surveillance, and criminal justice reforms, to civil rights concerns like workplace and housing discrimination. The OLC secret law governs everything from seizing Iranian tankers to targeted airstrikes. The only hope for learning of these secret expansions is a FOIA suit, and that's if they choose to comply with the request at all. The OLC sees itself as exempt from reading room rules. In 2016, Congress had to cap FOIA document delays at 25 years due to abuses of deliberative process privilege. Sunset clause found in Section 2 of the above DOJ summary. Let's look at that. Disclosure requirements. Codification of Department of Justice's foreseeable harm standards. Sunset on deliberative process privilege. Exemption 5 of the FOIA is amended to provide that the deliberative process privilege shall not apply to records created 25 years or more before the date of which the records were requested. It's absolutely unacceptable to think that they can take 25 years to submit these FOIA requests and bring the information out. When I woke this morning, I didn't expect to be in somewhat ideological agreement with Lawrence Tribe, but agree it's weird that there is a secret, non-legal entity within both the DOJ and the White House whose rulings rival SCOTUS and are above checks and balances. Because of the intimate relation to Fisk and FISA, I wonder if evidence or documents in both General Flynn and real Donald Trump cases involving FISA and Fisk has something to do with an OLC ruling or rulings. This could explain the hearings on classified clearances for attorneys like Sidney Powell. Legal scholar Randy Barnett asserts that though we refer to such an institution as a court system in the positive law sense, in truth, such a court lacks many of the characteristics of a proper court. Some final thoughts on secret law. Such things were common in the Soviet Union and the Eastern Bloc. PPD is a presidential policy directive similar to a secret executive order. Obama had 42 PPDs, and 16 of them are still secret. George H.W. Bush had 91 PPDs, and Reagan had 325 PPDs. Many of them were nuclear and military. Mein Führer, or now as Führer rises, always brings excellent information to the forefront and gives us a lot to think about. The types of things that are taking place in this country behind the scenes, as directed by the swamp and as having been built up over the last several decades, really has brought us closer in common with the Soviet Union than any other country. We talk about being a constitutional republic with democratic policies, and then behind the scenes we have secret courts that create secret laws that none of us can know about unless somebody files a FOIA request to ask if they exist. This is really, really frightening when it comes down to it, because what is it that we're fighting for here, guys? The things that have gone on for so many years behind the scenes have created essentially a Western bloc. No longer the Soviet bloc in the East, but now we have a Western bloc here, and that is what the swamp is. President Trump, I sure hope that this is something that you're going to do something about, because we cannot have a constitutional republic in which a secret court ignores the rules of the Constitution and our checks and balances. I hope that this gives everyone something to think about, and I thank you, Führer Rises, for putting out this information. All right, now, the deep state FBI was given hard evidence of Hillary Clinton-linked $66 billion Libya scheme, and they launched a junk investigation against the Trump-Russia hoax instead. Here is Hillary Clinton, and there is her friend, Sid Blumenthal. In February 2018, Representative Jim Jordan joined Fox and Friends and revealed that shadowy Clinton figure Sid Blumenthal, who was involved in the Benghazi scandal, appears to have been a key source for dossier author Christopher Steele. Would you look at that? Let's go ahead and take a listen to that clip.
Congressman, the second dossier that we're just learning about through the Senate, through Lindsey Graham and Chuck Grassley, what's the most alarming thing to you when you learn about the details?
Well, it's the names we keep hearing are Sidney Blumenthal and Cody Shearer. People have been around the Clintons forever as being a part of this. But I also think it's kind of interesting because what it looks like is they paid Steele to put together the dossier. Then they told him what to put in it. Talk about rigging the game and putting together a document that's going to serve your purposes as an opposition research document. That's what it looks like the Clinton team did. And then when you see names like Sidney Blumenthal coming up, I mean, this is the same guy. We deposed this guy during the Benghazi committee hearings. This guy has been around the Clintons forever. He was knee deep in the whole Libya Benghazi story, particularly the story where they weren't square with the American people about what was the actual catalyst of that attack, and they tried to blame it on a video. So I find that all interesting, particularly that they hire Steele to produce the dossier, then they're actually telling him what to put in the dossier, and then they're leaking that to the press. I mean, come on, that's not how it's supposed to work.
And then saying that there was Russian collusion on his part, when meanwhile they're the ones that are sending this British spy into Russia to pull information that hasn't been proven.
Now, from the Daily Caller, the names we keep hearing are Sid Blumenthal and Cody Shearer. This is the segment that we just listened to. But there is more that is coming up in this story right now. According to Zero Hedge, recently made public FBI records reveal that the agency virtually ignored evidence from private GOP-backed sources about a scheme in which Hillary Clinton associates tried to exploit her position as Secretary of State in order to profit from the 2011 turmoil in Libya that she helped create. And that's according to Real Clear Investigations. The documents provided to the FBI in June 2016 as the agency was kicking its Trump-Russia investigation into high gear alleged that Clinton confidant Sidney Blumenthal sent her a series of detailed memos and reports about Libya, which were intended as a quid pro quo, which might help a post-Gaddafi Libya recover as much as $66 billion in offshore funds hidden by the slain strongman. According to the private investigators funded by Judicial Watch, our evidence shows that Mr. Blumenthal was involved with a group of intelligence professionals seeking to repatriate assets which were plundered and then exfiltrated by the Gaddafi family and hidden in various offshore localities. If successful, Blumenthal and associates stood to gain a broker's cut of perhaps hundreds of millions of dollars. The private Libya inquiry leaves important issues unsettled. The documents do not include emails or other original source material to support the allegations within, while claiming to possess evidence that Mr. Blumenthal and his associates had contracts and offshore accounts to repatriate the money. The documents say no concrete evidence was found suggesting Clinton acted to support the effort. Yet, if verified, these files might shed light on why Clinton kept her emails, tens of thousands of which have gone missing, out of normal government communication channels. The documents are labeled by the FBI as having been received on June 6, 2016, a month before the first of Comey's two exonerations of Hillary Clinton before the 2016 election. This was roughly 7 weeks before the FBI opened its counterintelligence probe of the Trump campaign based on nothing. Yet again, folks, more and more evidence showing that the FBI and the DOJ were stacked against Trump from the very beginning. They had absolutely no desire to go after Hillary Clinton, despite clear evidence of actual wrongdoing and crimes being participated by her and her lackeys, the people in her circle, people like Sid Blumenthal, people like Cody Shearer. I implore President Trump, the DOJ, Bill Barr, the fine men and women in the FBI, please take action on the actual crimes that we know that Hillary Clinton participated in. And next, the Justice Department is seeking McCabe's text messages in their Spygate probe. The Justice Department is seeking FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe's 2016 text messages in its probe into the origins of the Trump-Russia investigation. According to government sources who spoke to investigative reporter Sarah Carter, McCabe's text messages will play a significant role in understanding the FBI's probe of Hillary's emails and their migration over to opening the Trump-Russia investigation. The FBI treated Hillary Clinton's email investigation with kid gloves because they thought Hillary Clinton was going to win the 2016 election. In contrast, McCabe, former FBI counterintelligence chief Peter Strzok, and his paramour, FBI lawyer Lisa Page, were caught discussing an insurance policy in case Donald Trump were to win the election. Republican congressmen, including Devin Nunes, Jim Jordan, and John Ratcliffe, tried to obtain McCabe's text messages while they had the majority in the House, but the FBI obstructed their efforts. The House Intelligence Committee tried to get the McCabe texts in the last Congress, but we were stonewalled, Nunes told Sarah Carter on Monday. This is the kind of issue that really needs more transparency. There's been too much unnecessary secrecy surrounding the entire Russia investigation. The American people deserve to know exactly what happened. Conservative watchdog group Judicial Watch also sued the FBI for McCabe's text messages, but Director Christopher Wray is stonewalling Tom Fitton and some of his lawyers. Judicial Watch is not backing down, however, in its efforts to get McCabe's text messages and is awaiting a court ruling on obtaining his messages after they filed a motion in May on behalf of FBI Supervisory Special Agent Jeffrey Danick. The FBI tried and failed to get Danick's lawsuit dismissed. Sarah Carter reported that according to government sources, McCabe's 2016 text messages were redacted when congressional investigators obtained the documents last year. So here we are, guys. We find ourselves yet again looking for information from the deep state involving the Spygate investigation. Judicial Watch, Tom Fitton, they're doing incredible work, but this really needs to get wrapped up. I realize that Christopher Wray has a job to do. He's trying to maintain the reputation of the FBI. However, it's already been destroyed. Christopher Wray, the best thing that you could do in order to help your organization is to bring this information into the light of day. We, the people, deserve to know exactly the role that people like Andrew McCabe, James Comey, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, all of them, what did they play in this Spygate scandal? We all know that they were trying to set up a coup to remove President Trump, and it didn't work. So now, as we are the victors, as President Trump is the winner and the clear president and leader of the United States of America, he deserves to know exactly what went on behind closed doors in order to try and stop him from gaining power and then maintaining power. All right, guys, I think that's all that I have for you today. I want to thank everyone for joining me. As always, this has been Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this was your Red Pill News. Good luck, everyone, and God bless.